Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. They offer a wide selection of high-quality plants, landscaping materials, and home decor. They do amazing high-quality work and can help you transform your indoor and outdoor living spaces into something beautiful. So stop by Casey's Outdoor Solutions today and let them know you appreciate their support for Rock Solid Radio. Visit Casey's today at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. Hey, this is Merrill Hutchinson along with my beautiful but distracted wife, Linda Hutchinson. Hey, hon, I'm over here.
Wait a second.
Give me a little bit of attention.
Did you push record button?
I did push record. We are live,
sorry.
and here you are staring at your phone.
Well, I'm still looking for that car we were talking about.
Gosh.
Do you realize that when you search for cars one time, like everything that pops up on your phone is car?
I did,
cars.
but do you realize how rude you're being as we're trying to record and you got your phone in your hand and you're like,
this car just came up.
phone, what about me? What about me over here?
Gosh, well, that's perfect for our topic today, isn't it?
I would like to say that I'm Mr. High and Mighty, but I've been very guilty of the phone use myself.
Yeah.
Today.
Yes. Yeah. So this topic is really hitting close to home.
We are going to talk about us. Not really.
Actually, can you be our counselors? Because we really could use some counseling.
We are going to talk about, this is really the second show in our instant gratification series. And today we're going to be talking about kind of the entertainment realm, and a lot of it's going to be targeted towards the screens, and in particular the phone, the instant gratification, the dopamine hit that I get, like when that car ad that just pops up.
That just popped up.
You know, I buy a pair of shoes, and the next thing you know, like I'm getting inundated with all kinds of shoe ads, and I just got to see whether I got a good deal or not. And so don't think that there is not an active role in you getting the eyes to go to the screen.
Yeah.
There is definitely something.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on there, and why we need to pay attention to it is because of the expense that we're actually going to talk about today. That there's now real data. You know, we're done with the days of wondering if this is good or bad. There's real data that talks and shows us, especially in the parenting realm, but not just parenting realm, because even as adults, we are deep into the trenches of this instant gratification with the screens.
Yeah. But before we get into that, we definitely got to thank our sponsors. We want to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions and Maxwell Construction for their support of Rock Solid Radio and just really our community in general. So we're so thankful to them. Please let them know that you're listening to this show and you appreciate their support. And, you know, you might not always agree with what we're talking about, but I'm so thankful that we're having conversations like this. This is really important, and we are going to step on some toes, our own toes included, but it's a necessary conversation, we think, for our families.
Yeah, we definitely want to thank all those folks out there listening and continuing to help us spread the word by subscribing to our channels, sharing our channels, sharing our show. If you see a show that you've listened to that kind of you recognize that, man, you know, a friend of mine or brother or sister, whatever, they could benefit from this, share it, you know. This is our way of helping to get through word of mouth messages out to help others.
Yeah, and we appreciate your feedback. We've been getting some great feedback from people who are listening and watching, whether you're on YouTube, whether it be on Apple or Google Podcasts or Spotify or iHeartRadio, wherever you get your local podcasts. And so we're just thankful. And we know that there's listeners and viewers. Is watchers a word? Viewers.
Our audience.
You know, that is not only in the Cincinnati tri-state area, which is where we are recording from, but also nationwide and actually worldwide. I mean, do you know that one of our biggest audiences worldwide is in Ireland?
You know what? I
crazy?
think
if you're in Ireland right now,
thank you. I think we are very sick entertainment at some pub somewhere where they're into their fifth pint and they're just going, this silly Americans.
Okay, so Ireland obviously speaks English, so that's easy. But we actually have a lot of viewers from African nations and Asian nations who are not, English is not their native language. And so I'm really shocked. Like India is a big one for us. And some,
well, honey, don't get all excited about that. There's a very good chance that you're being hacked and you're being stalked.
Don't say that.
And so,
oh goodness, if you're out there and you're watching worldwide, would you just let us know that you're not a hacker, you're not a troll, that you're really a human being that's watching the show for content?
We're so excited that we got 3,000 listeners over in some weird spot in India. Anyway, it is fun.
Oh gosh.
Hopefully it's real. But anyway, that's part of this whole social media thing and just the technology. Hey, hon, so next week, we got to tune in.
Gosh.
So next week, we're going to be talking about instant gratification as it relates to sex and pornography.
Hang on. Did you just say sex?
You got it, baby. We were actually thinking about doing a live program on this one.
Oh,
like a Facebook Live, which, by the way, I think we should say something.
We are going to do something.
We're going to start experimenting.
That wasn't a joke, by the way.
No, we're not going to do the sex one Facebook Live. That would only be my idea. Linda would never go for that. But we are going to actually start doing some short segments, like some how-to segments. We're going to have to get a good, cool name for that, honey.
Yeah, I know.
If
you got a good name for that, like how to, take your kids to the grocery, or how to, tell your husband that you spent too much money or whatever.
Yeah. Like we got to have a name for it,
Yeah.
but we're going to do some how-to type segments, and we're going to experiment with the Facebook Live. They'll still be recorded, just like we do here, but to actually do it in real time with the opportunity for people to even ask questions. Like maybe the scenario would be like, typically when I take my kids to the grocery store, we fight it because they're throwing tantrums and stuff. So how can I do that? And maybe as you watch something like that, you're like, okay, well, here's my scenario, and maybe you feed us a question on Facebook Live.
I just had this revolution.
Oh my gosh! See, I hate when this is like running on camera, because now you guys have to read my body language.
You can cut it out. You're the editor, so you can cut it out if you want. But remember the days where we used to watch that show, Super Nanny? I don't know if any of you are old enough to even remember that show, but she would be called into homes to kind of help them parent or strategies for their family.
Had the
home.
British accent.
Yeah, she had the little coupe car, and she'd drive in, but it was all about like live how to you do those things.
Right.
So maybe there's somebody out there that wants to invite us over their house.
No.
And we can film how that's working for you, and then we can come in and help. Like we could be like
that's
super
a danger. I used to say, because I was always in the counseling realm, I used to say, well, I'm super manny. Let's get started in what our show is today. Yeah. Okay. So first off, just some mind-boggling ideas and statistics here. Hun, this is just from Pew Research. At least on the smallest side of the research right now, 97% of all adults have cell phones. I mean, and
that's just crazy.
Yeah, and actually that's on the small side. It's actually, they broke it down by different demographics, and 100% of this demographic had it and stuff. So the smallest sector of adults is at 97%, and that was being conservative. So just think about that.
My mom is one of those 3%.
Right, exactly.
And honestly, it's been really hard for her to navigate as she's had to fly back and forth for some cancer treatments, and everything's assumed that you're using your phone, whether it be your
tickets,
boarding passes, whether it be check-in. And so for her, it's been very hard. There's just, you're assumed that you have that.
Yeah. An interesting stat that I don't know exactly how you quantify this, other than just the idea of people giving you some input, and that is the idea of how many people find themselves just, and whatever this word means, but constantly looking at their phone. So I would guess what that kind of means is that, every few minutes or so, you're just kind of checking the phone. You're checking for a message, a text, an email, just to check the phone. And 30% of the people asked say that they have a problem with constantly
I'm surprised
checking.
It's actually not even higher.
Well, that's why it's such a loose goose when you're talking about, what does constantly mean. But
and actually, I think as we get into this topic, people who are looking or listening or watching thinking, I don't have a problem, they might at the end of this think, oh, maybe I do. Maybe I need to do something about it. I
would say, hun, I won't speak for you, but I will. We both do. We
I'm
both
so glad
do.
you're not speaking for me.
Yeah. Well, and we do just because we have set up our life and even our business so that our phones are a vital part of it. Like all of our contacts are through our phone,
All of our
different
scheduling.
resources, all of our scheduling, our calendars. And so the phone is in my hand probably every couple minutes anyway, just through work. And it is so easy then to go off on a slight tangent on, oh, you know what, today in my session, they brought up this. I need to check that out and look it out, you know, and before you know it, I'm deep in it.
Well, and I was just talking about this morning in our class that, you know, I have really committed to go back to the paper Bible when I'm reading my morning devotions because I used to use my phone and a phone plan on, you know, a Bible app. But man, I tell you, my ADD just kicks in because all of a sudden there's a notification or there's an email or, oh my gosh, look what the weather's going to be like. And, you know, it's like I'm constantly being distracted by the things that are coming across my phone. So now I have gone back to my paper and I have literally put my phone on the other side of the room because even if it's in my pocket, you and I both know it vibrates, right? So you're like, oh gosh, does someone need me? Oh my gosh, what's happening? And so I have to put it on the other side of the room and just give myself and my Lord time alone, undistracted. It's hard.
Admittedly, I'm still sloppy about it. I grab whatever's next to me. If the Bible's there, I'm good. If it's not, I use the phone. And so I kind of had this just not very well collected. And, you know, sometimes I'm really good about staying on target. And sometimes I'm not. So it depends. Brain Force Centers, which is a research company as well, as they do brain research and just work with helping people with education matters and sort of things. They've collected some pretty interesting stats as well. Here's one of them. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter users, that with those platforms, it is forecasted by the end of this year, 2021, there will be 3 billion active monthly users of those sites. 3 billion. The population of the earth is just over 7 billion.
Wow.
So 3 billion people will have an active use and in one or all of those social media platforms. Just those three: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Yeah. It's not even talking about our younger kids with Snapchat. That's the big thing. Which, by the way, part of Snapchat's appeal to our young ones is this constant hit of dopamine and the streak you're trying to keep with all of your friends. And if you're out there and you don't understand Snapchat, welcome to the club. But the part of the thing that's disturbing to me is this constant need for, oh my gosh, I don't want to lose my streak. Oh my gosh, someone has snapped me, so I need to snap them back because I don't want to think that I'm not paying attention or I don't care. And so it's this instant gratification shot. It's almost like a...
Well, that's what we talked about, like in the first show.
Shot.
Just, that whole idea of the dopamine and understanding that there's actual biochemistry thing going on there that we all have. So it could be when you're walking through the woods and you see something really cool, that's does the same type of thing. But now social media and our technology of phones and screens can hit us within seconds of constantly stimulating that. And so it starts to become to the point, I used to hear this all the time in the school setting. I'm not sure if my kid really has ADHD because they can play a video game for 3 hours straight and be totally focused. And it's like, yeah, exactly. That's why they do. And the part of the problem there is the video game manufacturers and designers know, keep that screen coming at those kids fast and furious so that they are constantly engaged with something new. And so if you look at that, it's about every 4 to 5 seconds that you actually see something pretty significantly different coming onto the screen that I have to pay attention to.
Well, even the commercial ad companies are realizing that they have to put micro blasts within a commercial to keep somebody engaged because a commercial is too slow now. That's why we fast forward it, right? Through, maybe you have a DVR and you have it already recorded, which we do. And so we just fast forward through. And so they know that we're going to lose them. Yeah. So they have to do micro blasts that are actually not even visible to keep your glaze at the screen.
Right.
Because we are so conditioned now for this instant gratification.
Another part of the gratification part, hun, is just the social connectedness. Like, am I part of something? And so there's actually a little acronym for this now, FOMO. You know what FOMO stands for?
Well, yes, fear of missing out. Duh.
Like, you're not in the know, you idiot. Yeah, the whole fear of missing out. And you might think that's a trivial thing. Have you ever been in a social circle at a party and you arrive just a tad late to the little group that you're talking to, and they're all talking about something and you're kind of out of the loop. You don't get it. You're not in it. Or even if there's an inside joke that somebody's laughing about and you're not in it, you don't understand it. That is now compounded to an exponential level of, oh my gosh, all my friends are talking, and that's why our daughter struggled so much when we gave not gave in, we actually said, here's the system of when you're going to get a phone. And so she got the phone, but then we had limitations on what kind of social media she was going to get. And she expressed this, like, all my friends are using Instagram or Snapchat or whatever, and I'm not in. I don't know what they're talking about. Yeah. And again, as a parent, you're trying to like, okay, wait, I have to weigh what this is worth, what the risk is. And we held out. And again, we're not expecting her to understand it, but it was like, no, you're going to have to be outside the loop for a while.
If you are an adult and you've been in a room of some students, teenagers, it's very sad what you're seeing. And I know schools have been fighting this because of this, of not allowing the phones in the classroom and in the cafeteria and in the hallways, because children aren't even looking at each other in the eye and having any kind of conversation because they're all fear of missing out. Like, oh my gosh, what's somebody post on Instagram? And oh my gosh, I've got 5 snaps since I've been in class. And so because of that, we are disconnecting socially from people. And it's hard. It's hard for kids to sit there without a phone because everyone around them is. And so they feel like, I should get on my phone too. It's kind of like being in an elevator and you're kind of like, like everybody else is looking at the ceiling or looking at their phone because you don't want to make eye contact with people and talk to them. That would be so rude.
Right.
Or different.
Well, and it's one thing when that's happening on the elevator with people you don't know. It's another thing when that's happening on the elevator with everybody that you do know.
Yeah.
And you're
dinner
isolating.
Table with the family members. And that's the sad thing, guys, that we're really seeing is that we are allowing our children to dictate this tempo of this social media, phone, entertainment, World Wide Web. We are allowing them feeling like FOMO. They don't want to be missing out on something. And really what we're doing is we're training our children to not be patient and wait. How many times have you been in a store or in a waiting room with a toddler who has been given their parent's phone or a tablet that they are going to totally zone out? Sometimes they even have headphones like we do, and they're totally tuning out everybody. They don't have to talk to anybody. They don't have to sit there waiting patiently. Yeah. We're not teaching our kids any kind of delayed gratification at all.
So why is this all a struggle? There are 2 things, there are way more, but there are 2 things that we land on a lot in our actual business, our ministry of Rock Solid Families. And the 2 areas, this goes for all age levels, but it is primarily coming to us a lot with the teens up to the mid-20s. Anxiety and depression.
Yeah, and isolation.
Yeah, which then leads to the isolation. And so the whole idea of our perception, our self-perception, is now being influenced so greatly by what other people might be thinking about us. Right. Did I get the number of likes or clicks? Did I get a funny response back from somebody? Or did I get ignored? Or worse yet, did I get somebody that actually slammed me or was critical?
Hater.
And so, yes, so what we are seeing, because it's in such real time, is that there's so very little time for anybody to process information that instantly these kids get this feedback, good or bad, and it either falsely inflates, which, by the way, there's a reason why everybody shows their great little vacation pictures about how great our family is, because we want to be inflated. We want, look, they have a great time, they have a great family, and we do not want people to disregard or even be critical. And so it can falsely inflate or it can rapidly deflate.
You know, this isn't in our notes, hon, but what was the movie we watched where the student had posted something and the way person reacted to them, they literally started cutting themselves? What was that movie?
I don't remember.
Shoot. Oh, I'll have to remember that. But it was a movie about social media and what it's doing to our families and our kids and our adults. And this whole instant gratification.
Was that The Social Dilemma?
The Social Dilemma, that's what it was.
Definitely. I'm a little slow, people, but I pulled it out.
And I'm sorry, I shouldn't have had that on the tip of my tongue. But I highly recommend that you watch that as a family with anyone over the age of 12, 10 or, our 13-year-old who does not have a phone kind of disconnected because he can't get it. But our 16-year-old, she didn't like what she heard and saw because it's so close to home.
Yeah, even if you think it's some kind of propaganda, it's a very interesting show from the psychology standpoint about just like how our brains work and how we become attracted, distracted, or rejected by different things and messages and communication. And so the show was really good about that. And a lot of it, hon, we actually get to see firsthand as it comes in, like, there's such a powerful influence here. So. Yeah.
Can I just say something about that anxiety and depression, hon? Because I'm seeing this with my girls that come in to see me, is that they will say that the phone relaxes them. That it actually, when they're stressed out, the phone helps. They think that's the case, but it's exactly happening the opposite. They are rewiring their brain as they look at that screen, whether it's YouTube, Netflix, or Snapchat. It doesn't matter. It could be a violent game or it could be a Disney show. It is the screen itself that is rewiring the brain. And we talked about this in some seminars we've done on parenting in a tech-heavy world. But that prefrontal cortex that we talked about last week is still developing. And we are determining, it's almost like feeding it junk food by sitting on a screen. And we just said this last time, our kids have spent the school year on a screen. And then when they get off of the school screen, then they go to their phone to relax. And it's actually like, let's just feed a little bit more junk food to that. And we're not helping, we're actually increasing the problem.
Right. The concept there is actually very familiar with us. It's a desensitization concept, and if just so you understand what that is, when we are in cicada land.
Oh my gosh.
We are in cicada land, and there are cicadas everywhere where we are, and the 17th year brood is out doing its business.
So we're going to film this, and then 17 years from now, I'll remember that.
And we'll remember it. This was the date. This is one time we can date this. And when you first go outside, oh my gosh.
It's unnerving.
You just like crazy all over the place.
And they're coming out to dive bombing it.
But when you're then outside for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you're out doing some work or whatever, all of a sudden it just becomes somewhere in the background.
Not to our teenage daughter, by the way.
Well, she's just afraid of the bug.
I'm just going to confess, I think I'm going to have to go get her some therapy because I asked her to take something out to the garbage can all the way to the street.
Send her to me for therapy and I'll charge you double and we'll
She was like,
fine.
No, not all the way out to the street. And she was like, she had to like pull her hair up and she's freaking out afraid of them. And so I didn't realize I was traumatizing her just by sending her to the garbage can.
These soft children of ours. Anyway, so that whole idea, we do get desensitized. And then in order to be sensitive again, you have to ratchet up the stimulation. And so whatever that is, whether it is social media, whether it's the sex and pornography that we're going to talk about next week, whatever it is, you have to understand how your body, your brain functions through being stimulated and then overstimulated or understimulated with desensitization. Yep. So, hon, let's get into...
Can I say something on that?
Oh, you got something hot on your tongue.
Well, we've done a lot of research and stuff on drug use and addiction. And, I know there's a lot of argument on whether or not marijuana is a gateway drug. But the fact of the matter is that when you use marijuana on a regular basis, then all of a sudden it's not enough. It doesn't get you happy enough or high enough or do enough for you. So then you have to go on to something harder and something more often. And that's exactly what's happening with our screens. It just pulls us in and becomes its own addiction. And so it's just the reality of that dopamine hit.
That's some crazy stuff too, because the idea there is, even if you are not chemically dependent on it, you are psychologically dependent on it, meaning that well, I've already done this. I've already done it once. So what's the next thing? And so we see that with pornography as well. Like, we always say that the hardest time for a kid to shoplift is the very first time. Once I shoplift the first time and I go through all of that, is this the right thing, whatever. Once I do it once, and if I'm successful, number 2 is a whole lot easier than number 1, and then 3, and then 4. And so it's the desensitization of what the impact would be as well.
Yeah.
Like, I mastered it. It's no big deal.
Same thing with beers, drugs. I mean, 1 was the hard one. Then all of a sudden, 2 or 3 come easy.
Yeah, I mentioned in one of our shows, Hunt, about the gateway of marijuana. And I've heard the same thing, about, should we really make that big of a deal with marijuana? Well, what has actually kind of brought me back to center ground on that is I have yet to deal with one of our recovering addicts that is okay with using marijuana.
Right.
So that speaks volumes to me. Yeah, every recovering addict that we have ever dealt with has never said, well, I've stopped all the heroin and everything, but I still do the marijuana because that part's okay. No, when they get to that point, they're like, no, I can't, because I know that the marijuana was the thing that led me to the next step. So
the
that
healthy,
right there
the healthy
tells us,
recovering addicts. Now, I will say some who think that they can still dabble
they're
in
not.
it.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they're still playing the game.
Yes, they're in denial. So let's talk about how we can help our family, son, because we don't have a whole lot of time, and we don't want to leave you hanging with, okay, then what? What do we do about this? So let's talk about what we can do as adults and as parents to help our kids and our families be healthier.
Yeah. So one of the first things, especially in just trying to learn how this is actually impacting your family, is be intentional about a purge, like a fast. Do a social media fast. Like, today we are not going to do TV screens. No, today there's not going to be any TV. Tonight when you guys get home, we're going to read a book. We're going to go play a game.
Yep.
All right, but we're going to do a purge. We're going to just get rid of it. And just see how that rolls, okay? Sometimes it can be kind of fun. Like, actually, in our house, when we do away with the TV, which we're not huge TV people, but when we do, kids love to play some kind of game, okay? Yeah. And you kind of are reminded, we should probably do more of this. Look what it's doing.
I think the quarantine really taught us that, because you couldn't sit on a screen all day, every day, and you couldn't go to work, and you couldn't be out with people. And so you had to get creative. And that really taught us about some things to do as a family. And we really are asking you not just to purge something, but to replace it with something, a real life experience. Whether that means you find some new hiking trails and you go out hiking as a family. Maybe it is you buy a new board game and you discover that as a family. Maybe it is that you work on a project together. Maybe you're out mulching or whatever. Real life experience trading in for those screens.
Yeah, and that's our second point, that whole idea of trading that. Like, we have a son who loves to watch YouTube videos of skateboarders. Okay. Now, again, I get why. I mean, it is exciting. I find myself drifting into it, watching some of these stunts and these tricks. But, after a couple minutes, you're like, turn the phone off and go out now and practice that. Yeah. Actually go out and live it and fall and crash and learn, because we become so great in our mind at what we think we could do by watching these things that we actually never grow. Because we never actually go through the process. Our son has struggled with this. He thinks he can do triple front flips off of diving boards and all these things. And the reality of it is, and I'm not saying never, I'm saying not till you get out and practice.
Yeah, for sure. I remember last summer being at a pool, and a bunch of teenagers were there. They had been dropped off by their parents. I saw the parents drop them off. And then they literally went inside and they sat on a bench in the shade, and they were all on their phones. And I was like, holy cow, I think your parents think you're swimming. Yeah. They never did get in the water.
Why go to the
Never
pool?
got wet.
Yeah.
Some of them didn't even change into their bathing suit. Yeah. And I thought, come on, guys, there's a beautiful pool. It's a hot, sunny day, and you're sitting in the shade on your phone.
The pool doesn't produce the dopamine that it did back in the 1960s.
Yeah.
In the 1960s, the dopamine rush out of the swimming pool was huge.
Yeah.
In the 2000s, the dopamine rush has been surpassed by the screen.
Yeah, and that reminds me, I know more teachers who are struggling with engaging their students because their students are coming back saying, we're bored. this is so boring. They're going home and telling their parents, this is so boring, this is so boring. It's because the teachers are not on this split-second time frame that our screens are. And our kids are struggling with being engaged because they're so conditioned to that constant hit of dopamine.
Right. So the third area that we would emphasize and encourage you guys to help yourself and your family with is go out of your way, especially for your kids, but for all of us, go out of your way to have human face-to-face interaction.
Face-to-face?
Yeah, I know.
Like
it would
talk
be
to
awkward,
people?
but maybe if I do it behind a blanket or something,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the whole idea. And so this has become one of these areas that we're actually seeing the negative impact. We are seeing kids that are in high school now that have a hard time ordering their food at a restaurant because they can't look at the waiter or waitress. They're not sure about what decision to make. And it's just all overwhelming. And we literally are encountering teenagers who say, Mom, just order for me. You know what I like.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I just had this conversation with a student who's going to camp, summer camp, and they were told not to bring their phones. And she is panicking, thinking, what am I going to do all week? I can't, the FOMO, right? I'm going to be missing out a whole week without a phone. And the whole point is that camp knows you're not going to deal with people and have human interactions if everyone has their phone. And I love that. I am so proud of those camps by saying, drawing the line, setting a boundary and saying, no, this is about you having human interactions and face-to-face conversations with people and really building relationships.
Mom, Dad, please listen right now because here's what you need to know. This is way more than whether I can order my food at the store.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that we have social isolation and then coldness, and you see this sociopathic sort of ideologies that come up.
Cancel culture.
Well, you actually have people who, go on rampages and have mass murders and all these things. Not that your kid's going to do that, but let me be very clear about what is happening. When I don't have to deal with somebody face to face, not only do I not have to read their face and get the message, but I totally become distant from the concept of empathy.
Yeah.
And so empathy is only gotten when I tune in, we talk about in counseling sessions, I tune in from the heart to the eyes. And I read and engage back and forth that not only did I hear what the person is saying, but I feel how they're feeling. And when I can start to do that, I can see whether somebody's upset, whether somebody's disengaged, whether they're tired, which is so much more of the actual message that we need to be successful in relationships. And so face-to-face encounter is not just for the verbal, okay? In fact, primarily, especially for successful relationships, and this is we have grown couples all the time that are in, and they have totally, and the phone is a big part of it. They have lost the ability to read each other's heart because they're staring at a screen. Okay, so a huge reason to go face to face is to teach your kids how to read the emotions and the feelings and get that empathy thing.
Yeah, and they're not going to want to do it because it's so easy to hide behind a phone.
Right.
And I just heard that on the radio just the other day, that empathy is one of the greatest gifts to develop in our children and to have as an adult. And that and conflict resolution, because if we can have empathy, then we can kind of put ourselves in someone else's shoes and kind of understand why they disagree with me or why they're thinking differently. And so we won't have this cancel culture that we do today, that we can just blast someone over a text and be okay with that. We can look them in the eye and have a conversation about what they think and what they don't. So I think it's really important.
Yeah, very good point there. So, all right, so the next point here is the whole idea of you are the parent, all right? Set boundaries for your family, for your home. You set boundaries. You know, we've talked about before that the whole screen thing is kind of the wild, wild west in terms of regulation and rules and laws, okay? And again, there's a lot of people that would love for the government to step in and start saying, well, you know, you have to be this age or you can only have this content. And some of that probably needs to happen, okay, just in terms of the direction. But at the end of the day, you are the person, the people in charge of your family. You need to set the boundaries.
Set the tone.
You set the tone. Guys, in our house, we don't do this, and I don't really care what the other houses are doing. You're not going to watch this level of content. You're not going to be on the phone this many hours a day. You're going to be limited to this. You're not going to have this social media. And again, you're the parent. Your kids don't like it. Expect them to not like it. That would be a strange kid that says, "Thanks, Mom. I know you're doing this for me."
I have a funny story about that. So I had a family tell me that I'm not sure if it was a grandma or a dad or somebody that had told a child that they could not have any music on their phone except if it had an E by it. Because on video games, E means everyone.
Oh.
Does anybody know what E means in music? Do you know?
No, what is it?
Explicit.
Ooh, yeah, I do know that, yeah.
So all of a sudden,
all right, I got to listen to the E.
This parent saw all this music on their phone, and they're like, what the heck? And I forget if they said dad or grandpa or somebody said that it only could be E music. And that mom was like, oh, dear, we've got to clean that up and start
so
over.
We better,
so they set a boundary, but make sure you set the right boundaries.
Yeah, get some common terminology there.
Yeah.
Understand what we're doing.
But, boundaries for us, for example, in our home is that phones are not at our dinner table. They're not on your lap. They're not, on the side by the plate. They are away. And we're not looking and engaging in our phones while we're at the dinner table, whether it be at home or away.
We don't even answer the actual. We still have one of those, what do they call them? Landlines.
Yeah.
We have a landline phone, and if it rings during dinner time, it's just going to have to ring through.
It's usually a solicitor anyway.
Yeah. So, but those are boundaries. And again, this is not about shocking your kids one day. It's just, this is how we roll. This is how we are in our house. And, like our youngest one, he's been in this the longest. He doesn't fight us at all.
No.
Just because he knows, and we're predictable about it. Like he knows he's going to have his opportunity for his phone around the Christmas time of his 8th grade year.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee with that either. It'll depend on the trust and the value system that he portrays between now and then.
But we set that boundary when our kids moved in with us. They're adopted, and the first one was the hardest because he was the closest to that age where all of his friends were getting a phone. But we said 8th grade. And then our daughter, 8th grade, and our 13-year-old still doesn't have a phone. He's not in the 8th grade yet. And so that boundary was set a long time ago. And the argument started at the beginning, but it's gone now. And, they also charge in our room or away from their room.
Charge the phone up, yeah.
Yeah, and so we don't let our kids sleep with their phones because we know, just like we would, it would be 3 a.m. and they'd be like, oh, something's popping up on my phone. So we just can't assume that our kids have the tools or the maturity to be able to handle that. We've got to set the boundaries. Those are just some of those what we've done.
Yeah. So the last thing we really want to talk about is we're talking about the instant gratification of the whole social media thing and the screens and the technology is. Don't be a victim to this stuff, all right? We, on a regular basis, we have parents coming into us. We have yet to have a parent come into us and say they're thrilled that their kids have social media or have phones. So that does not really happen. What we get all the time is, it's, what are you going to do? It is what it is. And again, we understand a level of that thinking. But let's make no mistake about it. When we are coaching and we're teaching kids, when you're teaching a kid how to play soccer, you don't say, well, if we're getting beat by 10 points, you just really give up. You quit playing. No, you say you play to the very last whistle blows. All right. And that same idea is, especially in our own home, you don't stop doing the things that we've just talked about, whether it's time for a purge, whether it's time to set a boundary, whether it's time to have some face-to-face conversation. These are the things that we keep on circulating back and around, and we're just not going to give up on this stuff, okay?
Yeah. And we're going to look at the long term. Hun, you say this all the time. What do you want your child to be when they're 25? Are we looking at temporary happiness when they're 12, and this is what they want, and they're screaming and throwing a tantrum about it? Or are we going to look at what is best for them when they're 25? And so that's what we want to look at, the long-term goals for our kids and our family. I don't want to be this disconnected family that no one talks to each other, that no one even knows what's going on in each other's worlds. That's what's happening in our homes today.
Right.
It makes me very sad.
Right. On a positive note, Hun, we're actually seeing a pretty neat trend.
Yeah.
We're seeing a trend that I think it's an awakening of, and this trend seems to be coming from the 25 to 35, even 40-year-old age group, where they're actually making a hardcore radical, it appears to be radical compared to what the rest of us are, a radical stance on all of this social media. They are saying, these are even the adults are like, no, I have a cell phone for work. That's it. Otherwise, it never comes out.
We don't own a TV.
We don't own a TV. If we
don't have cable.
We have a Netflix, and we only look at these shows or whatever. And they're taking a radical stance. Our two older boys do not have social media, and we feel like we're loosey-goosey in terms of that compared to what they are, because they've seen what's happening within their generation, and they're like, no, we're not going to do this.
Right, and for their kids, they're wanting and choosing differently. By the way, we didn't say this, but we mentioned a lot about phones, but this goes all the way through computers to gaming systems to TV and Netflix. Are those Netflix not purging, but binging.
Yeah, binging.
That, people do. So all of that is encompassing in what we're talking about with this instant gratification and really getting those hits that we just can't do without. That's really what we're talking about.
All right, so we're going to wrap things up. So our challenge for this week is to really do an assessment on where you and your family are standing in the technology and social media world. It's time to have that sit-down conversation with your spouse. Yeah. What do we really want? As Linda said, what do we want our kids to be like when they're 25 years old? Well, then how are we going to get there? And so you guys as parents have such an opportunity here to shape how your kid is going to get through things and deal with things with depression and anxiety and all of the influx of the social media that comes your kids' way. So assess it this week, have some conversation, and then come out of it with a plan that you're ready to begin to implement.
Right. And we're talking as if we're only talking to young parents, but I know a lot of, empty nesting couples who are feeling so disconnected and will sit for hours watching a TV and on a phone or a tablet, not even talking to one another. So we're not just talking to young parents and couples. We're talking about all of us, even if you're by yourself at home, are you sitting there and hiding behind a phone or a screen? Please don't do that. There's too much out in this. We need each other. We need relationships. We need connection. We need community. So please teach your children that, but do this for yourself. Model it at home first.
Yes. All right. So very good. So we want to say thank you to Maxwell Construction and Casey's Outdoor Solutions for being a sponsor of Rock Solid Radio. We want to thank all of our listeners out there for just coming alongside of us and helping us do what we do. Again, if you like what we do, share us, 5-star us, cheer us on. If you don't like what we do, just turn us off and be nice, okay?
Yeah, thanks so much for listening to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time. Make it a great day.
I lost my phone. I feel empty.
It's probably better.
Oh, jeez. I don't think I can survive another day.
Hey, I want to show you this car I found.
No. All right, we're out of here.
Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Maxwell Construction, who has been our sponsor since the very beginning. For over 30 years, Maxwell has delivered the highest quality projects by holding to their core values of customer satisfaction, positive attitude, respect, and excellence. So if you have any kind of commercial construction need, give Maxwell Construction a call today at 812-537-2200.